What's up, everybody? This is Thomas Bahamas, and you are here for Solana Weekly. Millions of people are showing up and taking part in Web3 and blockchain every day, every week. And guess what? The majority of them are showing up on Solana. I am a Solana enjoyer myself and have been trying to figure out this space since 2022. I have a tech background and an obsession with figuring out the latest trends and trying out all the latest apps and protocols. Join me as we dive into another episode of Solana Weekly to learn as much as we can about the fastest blockchain and the amazing ecosystem being built on top of that blockchain. Thank you for joining in, and let's get to the show. We have a treat today and have Chris from Titan on to talk about Titan Dex, which is in private beta right now. He's rocking a sick SMB Gen 3 profile picture on X, and I'm hoping that he can give us the update on what's going on in Solana, what he's building out, and hopefully teach the listeners a little bit about what goes into a DEX and an aggregator. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, excited to have you on. We got connected and I started digging into Titan. I was like, you know what? This seems like a pretty great project, right? Obviously Solana already has DEXs and they have some aggregators, but the way that I see it is like we need some competition in here, right? And that's always going to be better for the end users. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys are building?
No, no, 100%. So I guess Titan is a DEX aggregator, as you were just explaining. So what DEX aggregator is that it basically consolidates all the on-chain liquidity for Solana, and then we find the best routes for you. So we go through every single pool, every single protocol, and even go through intermediary tokens to provide you the best price. So if you're like trading Solana to USDC, we would go search through the entire on-chain network and construct a route for you to maximize the amount of USDC that you would get. Now, what we're also building is that we're also adding meta-aggregation on top. So if anybody's coming from the Ethereum side, it's popularized by DeFi Llama, but basically we are aggregating aggregators on top as well. So we'll have our quotes, we'll have other aggregators quotes like Jupiter, Spider Swap, and then whichever one has the best quote for the end user, we'll just route them to it with no fees attached. It will be fully visible, fully transparent, and what we're trying to do is really provide the best quotes to the users no matter what, regardless of who's the originator there.
That's amazing. So, oh man, there's a lot there. So you do all of that, right, in 400 milliseconds, right? So like when the end user is doing a swap, they don't necessarily know what's going on behind this at all, right? Like even when I look at a transaction and I look at SolScan and I see like what actually happened behind the scenes, like it's sometimes pretty crazy what it actually does and like the speeds that things are actually moving at. So I kind of wanted to get into that because one of the things that I get criticized on is I don't go into the basics of everything, right? So I want to kind of start from what it takes to actually build this and what end users actually see versus what's actually going on in the background, right? Because for me, it's like I'm going to be able to go in and swap any coin to any coin, and you guys are going to handle essentially creating the best experience for me, whether that's, value wise or UI wise as well. And there's a lot that goes on in the background, right? As you said, you're looking through all the different pools that you can. And then so you guys are almost looking at an aggregation of that and then aggregators on top of it. Is that right?
Yep, no, exactly. So there's a lot going under the hood, lots of capital deployed, lots of infrastructure. And that's why
Yeah.
like, you really need a pretty large team in order to set an aggregator up like this, which is why I think we've only really seen Jupiter come out as top dog currently in the ecosystem. So like
Yeah.
if we were to just wind all the way back, like what you really need to deploy everything is like you had to set up these dedicated nodes, RPC nodes you can get from like Triton or Helios, but then you
Mhm.
also need to run your own servers that contain your algorithms, contain like I guess a database of how you want to collect all of these different cool data coming in from the Solana ecosystem. And then you just have to find a way for your algorithm to work especially fast, given that it's already around 400 milliseconds. It's not like Ethereum where you have a lot of time to operate on. So while within that time, it also has to be sent out to the end user, receive the quotes, and execute all within, I guess, that 400 millisecond bracket on that side. So it is very complex, but the nice thing about 400 milliseconds is that it's not extremely fast as compared to, traditional equity spaces, but
Mhm.
it gives you enough time so you can run advanced analytics to actually identify what the best route actually is. And we've seen like extreme price improvements over, just running through a swap through one pool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And now if we were going to like a brand new user coming to crypto, right? They'll probably start by trading on like a centralized exchange, right? Like I'm in the US, so they're probably going to go to Coinbase and hopefully they buy Bonk or Solana, right? But when they do that, what's the experience like for the centralized exchange versus a decentralized exchange? I would imagine a lot more goes into the decentralized side, but I don't even really know what goes into an actual centralized exchange.
Yeah, so a centralized exchange, when you're trading through them, you're just running through one company's infrastructure, usually deployed on AWS there. But basically, you're running through a system called central limit order book, basically. So these are how traditional markets usually play out in terms of how you trade. So you can think about normal equities. If you want to trade Apple stock, there are people on both the bid and on the ask side. On the DeFi side of things, you have these things called automated market makers. So these are basically software programs that will automatically set the price for you as you swap through. So they're usually defined by a couple different functions, but currently there's three, I guess, popular types. The first one are automated market makers that are constant product. The other one is concentrated liquidity ones, and the last one is the central limit order book ones. So those ones are more specific or just Solana ecosystem, just
Yeah.
given the speed that's required to actually run it. But in terms of, the user interaction, I would say on a centralized exchange, it's very smooth. It's very fast because you just have to run through one server, right? But on a decentralized network, that's when stuff starts popping up. So on Ethereum, you have to wait a long time. The user experience is not that good. But I think
Yeah.
Solana has really solved that. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot more people move over to Solana for DeFi transactions instead of using CEXs. Um,
Yeah.
to be honest, I've seen better prices exist on Solana DeFi than Coinbase, which is why I moved the entirety of my assets out of Coinbase over to Solana DeFi. And it's just a nice experience. It's fast, it's efficient, and you get better prices. Like I think it's just a no-brainer to start moving everything over to DeFi's side of things here.
100%. Like it's not even close to experience. Like especially on Coinbase. Like I'm not like a Coinbase One subscriber or anything, but I went to do a swap on there not too long ago, and you have to pay a fee for swapping, and then there's slippage on top of it. Like you're paying Ethereum fees for, just like a normal swap is 50, $100. And I mean, that's a lot of money for a normal user. You really can't, I don't know. It doesn't make sense for a lot of people to do that unless you're in, massive size, right?
Exactly, exactly. Which is why, like, they're basically the only option to on ramp onto DeFi right now. But like, if you're in the US, I really do like PayPal USD in order to on ramp through PayPal. You just directly get one-to-one exchange rates and you can send it out without any of these withdrawal fees, any of these spreads that like these centralized exchanges are taking, because that's how they make their money.
Yeah, yeah, and we bring up PayPal. They recently did their pretty big launch on Solana and ETH as well. I thought that it was kind of a success. Like, yeah, they spent a lot of money and they provided a good yield for them, but my mindset kind of changed from that, right? Where now, I'm in the US and I recently went on a bachelor party and everyone still uses Venmo, right? So they send Venmo back and forth. I got a bunch of money in Venmo. It's like now that's money on chain, right? I can just send that directly to my Phantom wallet, and that it's easy, right? Like that, I feel like that kind of crossed a barrier to entry for me. But also, I mean, Coinbase for stable coins is great, right? I think that that's at least for me, that's their it's like the big strength for them is their partnership with Circle, where it's one-to-one dollars in and out of bank account in a couple days, right?
Yep. Yep, exactly. I think where crypto really shines though is in international transactions because like Venmo, I could use it domestically in the US, but like the second I want to transact with like a Canadian, if you're living close to the border, it is not possible. And I think like
Yeah.
crypto really, really gives you the ability to move anywhere you want while maintaining purchasing power. So
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's not very obvious, when I'm in the US and, I have the options to do that. But when we're talking international transfers, like a wire transfer is expensive, clunky, and what actually goes on in the background of all of those is insane too, right? So it's actually a pretty bad system where crypto just makes a ton of sense for that, right?
yeah, exactly. Especially with Solana, the transaction fees are so low. Like nobody wants to be paying like $20 for a wire transfer that takes like 3 days to land into their bank. It's just far more efficient for the stablecoin usage here.
Yeah, yeah. And so one of the things that I was most excited to talk to you about, so right now, when you talk about the Solana ecosystem as a whole, like everyone's focused on trading. Not everybody, but like the majority of people, it's meme coins, it's trading, it's perps. I feel like it's definitely a little bit more of like a degen time. But for right now, I think you're seeing the need for, better competition, new options, different ways to actually interact with the blockchain, right? If you're buying a brand new, a freshly listed coin on something like Pump Fund, your transaction, it's going to have a hard time landing a lot of the times, right? Like the price is spiking up and down. You got to, up your fees that you're going to be paying. So a lot of times people end up using like Telegram bots where they're using BonkBot or BullX or Photon. And it's like a never-ending spiral of like, all right, like everybody wants to get at these coins. The prices are impossible to get, so people are willing to pay a couple dollars for a transaction to get in and out. Like how do you view this time right now? Like, is this like a because it's kind of like the highlight is on trading, and that's what you guys are pretty much building, right? Is a better system for trading, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think right now, the trading landscape, especially for swap products, is very dominated by just Jupiter.
Yeah.
There's really no incentive for them to, try and improve their algorithm because everybody still goes to them. And it seems like their focus has been, launching new products, especially on a perpetual product where there's a lot of competition there. But in
Hmm.
traditional swaps, there hasn't been a lot of improvement, and that's where we saw that we could really come in and help the ecosystem. Like from our own testing in terms of our own algorithm, we did identify some weak spots that we thought we could fix. So from that, like we do have an 81% win rate on Titan's algorithm when we did our back testing, providing around an average 1% outperformance. So we think that's very important for traders. And on our platform, since we're doing the meta aggregation, even if we underperform to Jupiter for any reason, you'll still get Jupiter's price in the end. So worst case scenario, you'll still get the price you would have ended up with if Titan was not there.
Yeah, so it's a win-win. So it's almost like it's a front end that your guys, your plan is obviously to give the better price, better swap, but if it's not, you still get the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to use, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. So, like, as we consolidate more and more of these aggregators into our platform, like some algorithms might be more specialized for these long tail assets like meme coins. Some might be specialized for heavily liquid assets. There might
Mhm.
be even in the future, there might be even more use cases, more specializations that are needed from these algorithms because these algorithms are not one size fit all. They have different specialties, and you can deploy different types depending on what assets are selected and what the trader actually wants to go through.
Yeah, yeah, and it is crazy how much of the market share Jupiter has. I'm a big fan of Jupiter, but I also see the need for, somebody that's going to focus on delivering a better product. It's going to push them too, right? It's going to build a, it's going to move, it's going to grow the pie, like what they say, right? But I think that sounds good. Seems like you guys are building something amazing. I look forward to using it. And how do you think it's going to be like interacting with it? Is it going to be kind of more like an advanced like trading, or is it going to be like a trading setup with like, you have the graphs, you have like all the prices and all that, or is it going to be more like a similar like easy swap, pick this, pick your coin you're swapping from, swapping to kind of thing, or how's that going to look?
Yeah, I think initially at the beginning, it'll just be more easier. Like you just select your tokens, you input how much you want to trade. Quotes are presented to you. So you'll see every aggregator's quote, and then we
Hmm.
automatically match you with the best price on that side. I think there is a time in the market for more advanced trading UIs. I know a lot of people do like using Dex Screener or Trading View for
Yeah,
that applications, but I think that's a more future feature that we would probably be adding on. Right now, we just want to get the best swaps. Let's get this working and let's just
yeah,
present the general ecosystem before we move on to the next stage of the UI development.
yeah. Kind of focus on the core, get that tuned in, then start kind of adding some more features, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And now you guys are in a private beta right now. Was I right when I said that?
Yep. So we're in
Yeah.
private beta right now. We're testing with a core select like a core group of users, and then we're going to be expanding that out slowly as we keep adding more capacity on our servers.
Sounds good. When do you think it'll be live for everybody?
General public launch, we're targeting around January on that
January.
side, but we'll be
Oh,
getting more and more users on board throughout November and December.
sounds good. Sounds good. Um, one of the things that I was thinking about is like the difference between the Solana ecosystem and the ETH ecosystem. I feel like there's a lot more options in ETH than there's a lot of like different providers for aggregators. Is that something that you see Solana as just kind of being a little bit early? So yes, there's the one winner, but we need to kind of bring other options in, kind of like that. Or what's your view on that?
Yeah, so like surprisingly, when we took a look at both ecosystems, because the team's been together for a long, long time, over 10 years at this point for a lot of guys that are on the team.
On your
So,
team?
yep, exactly. So my co-founder and I, we worked on and off together for the last 10 years, and
Oh, it's awesome.
he trapped me on a Solana meetup and we started talking and we just came up with this idea, which we thought was good. But when we contrast Ethereum versus Solana on the ecosystem side of things, there are a lot more competitors on the Ethereum side for DEX aggregation and only really Jupiter on the Solana side. But what's surprising here is that 80% of traders or trades that happen in Solana go through DEX aggregators, while only 20% go through aggregators on Ethereum. And I think that's really down to gas gas fees, right?
Yeah.
You don't want like I put it as an analogy to go like when you're shopping online, if I see like even $1 in shipping costs, I'll dump the basket a lot of times, even if it's like
Yeah.
$100 worth of items. But with the Solana fees, that really enables aggregation to really take off to find the best price. While on Ethereum, if your transaction gets reverted, it feels bad losing that amount of money on the gas,
Oh yeah. No,
right?
completely. I mean, that's what got me on Solana in the start was like it was like DeFi summer on Ethereum. So any swap, anything was 50, 100, $200. And I was like, at the time, Solana would kind of go down anytime it got too busy. But if a transaction didn't go through, I wouldn't have to pay anything. It was like, all right, maybe the transaction didn't go through, but I didn't lose any money, where Ethereum, it's a little different, right?
Yep, exactly. And then but the other side of that is the algorithms on Ethereum are far more complex than what's currently deployed on Jupiter. They
Yeah.
have lots of competition. They do push each other to like, offer the best possible prices. Well, I
Hmm.
think on Jupiter's side, they are using less advanced techniques for their algorithm on that
Uh-huh.
side, as well as other competitors that try and replicate. And I just put that to like how fast the Solana ecosystem, how fast the block times actually are. So they're really constrained by the current, I guess, methodologies that are being put in place. And I guess what we're trying to do with Titan is that we know what methodology do we want to use to get around these limitations to provide better prices at a more of a Ethereum type of complexity.
Yeah. Do you think that a lot of those algorithms are a lot more well defined just because you need that more on Ethereum, or is it because Ethereum's been around for that much longer, so they've had more experience with it, or what do you think there?
I think it's just competition because like I know like most people's it's both it's a matter of competition as well as time because I think what most aggregators start off with are classical pathfinding algorithms that like all software developers learn during their education. But like these type of algorithms are really unsuited for crypto markets here. So over time, I guess people have evolved from that to move more into the, I guess, math optimization side of things. But currently on Solana, I think it's still using classical pathfinding algorithms for the most part. And that really
Uh-huh.
does exclude a lot of opportunities, specifically like liquidity is chunked into, I guess, like certain amounts. So you can imagine it's like if an aggregator finds a route, 40% may go one way, 60% may go another way. But that means like if you're chunking 10% chunks, you can be off by 5% from optimal just from there. If the ideal amounts are between 45 and 55, right? The other
Yeah.
thing that it doesn't really include is what we call negative cycles. So these are basically arbitrage opportunities that result in infinite loop when you deploy these algorithms. So it's like you go in a loop, you keep generating more money on that side, but it doesn't take into account price impact on when you're trading through these pools. So those are the shortcomings with pathfinding algorithms. So with our methodology at Titan, we are using pure mathematical optimizations in order to go find out what the actual best price is, including all the pools, as well as getting to machine level precision there for the end user.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, with that, I think that I don't know if this is the time to get into it, but I want to talk about MEV because I dabble in the trenches. So, I'll watch buys on Bullex or in Bird Eye, and you'll see sandwich attacks basically happen. So, do you want to kind of like explain a little bit about that and just kind of start from the core of how that even happens? I feel like I feel like it's a crazy thing that happens in no time at all. It happened to me one time, and I lost half a Solana, and I was quite pissed about it.
Yeah, so I guess MEV is a pretty unique thing, I guess in crypto markets. So basically, what happens if somebody pushes a transaction, they want to do a trade, somebody else sees a transaction. This is particularly prevalent in Ethereum ecosystems, but like it lands into like Ethereum's mempool, and a person sees a transaction, they can either like front run you, back run you to take advantage of like how much you're going to be moving the price on that side, and they take the spread. Now, this is becoming more and more prevalent on Solana side of things as, as some of these MEV guys are getting information from validators or Jito in order to like get this information, get these trade blocks, and then like pay Jito in order to like really put the transactions along with your own trade transactions in order to make the money. Now, I think Solana has done a lot to try and like negate the impact of MEV because that's basically resulting in worse prices for the user to actually put in the first trade. But from an infrastructure perspective, I think they've done as much as they can. It's just basically like whack-a-mole at this point. And I think it
Uh,
really has to move over to the application layer in order to stop, like negate as much of the MEV effect as much as possible. So both from DEXs as well as DEX aggregators in order to really like protect the user's value.
yeah, and it's essentially a manual button that you have to press on Jupiter or any of these trading. I think BonkBot does it automatically, but you have to turn on MEV protection. Otherwise, this can just happen, right? Like if you're just a new user and you show up, like you could very well swap. And the way that it looks is crazy because you'll say you're buying one Sol, you'll buy, you'll swap USD to one Sol or USDC, then all of a sudden there will be a buy for like 10 to 20 Sol and then a quick sell of 10 to 20 Sol. And somewhere in there, you get a lot less Sol than what you thought, right? So like they're basically artificially, or not even artificially, they're making the price way higher at the time of the swap, right?
Yep, exactly. So basically, whatever slippage amount you set is probably how much your end result will be
Yeah.
when the occurs. And I think there are some mitigation things you can do in addition to putting on MEV Protect, because I think that's from the DEX aggregator point of view in terms of sending a transaction to try and obfuscate, like try to hide as much as possible. But also
Mhm.
on the DEX layer, I think there was a paper put out by Ellipsis Lab in order to make a like I guess MEV resistant AMM type of model. If that's
Mhm.
implemented, that could really help solve a lot of these issues we're seeing because AMMs, the current implementations are kind of dumb, and that's how like these MEV attacks do occur and are made possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely sucks for people when they get, half as much as they thought when they make the swap.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
is that something that you guys are thinking about? Is that something that's going to be like implemented already, or you think that that's going to be something where you kind of have to turn it on your application?
Yeah, so I think MEV Protect will just be on our application because like with the price advantages we're providing, we think it's just necessary in order for people not to get hit that hard with MEV on that side because you will be able to get other sources of liquidity. But if we're providing the best routes, we just want to ensure that actually gets through for the end user.
Yeah, it's crazy that everything happens so quick, right? It's 400 milliseconds per block, and that's the amount of time that they have to attack you in there, right? And they can do it.
Yep, exactly. I mean, they just spam they when the second they pick up your transaction, they just spam these validator nodes, and hopefully one gets through because the cost is so cheap. So it's more of like a double-sided blade. So
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Now, what do you think about like in the future? Do you think like the full release of Fire Dancer will release those or will lower those block times down, or what do you think about that?
yeah, I think it really depends on what direction the Solana Foundation wants to take because with Fire Dancer, you could reduce times or you could increase block capacity, or you could just keep it the same while just lowering hardware requirements. I'm not sure which direction they want to take right now, but I
Yeah,
guess we'll have to see in production, see how it
yeah,
interacts, and then we can see what the priority is. Do we want like less beefy machines? Do we want lower latency times, or do you want those bigger block sizes, increase the amount of compute units that are being recorded? I think it's an open question. Each one of those paths means a different tactic for, I guess, developers going forwards and how users would interact with the systems.
yeah. So it's almost like they need to make up their minds so that you can make some development decisions on how to like best attack it, right?
Exactly. And I think it's just going to be a function of like what is the current need, what's the prevalent need for the entire ecosystem, and everybody will be adapting at that point.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, one thing you did mention earlier, you mentioned Spider Swap. Now they are a separate DEX, right? And I feel like there was like criticism for them in the beginning because a lot of trades were just going through Jupiter. Was that actually kind of a similar design choice to what you guys are doing, where it's like, yes, we have the faster option, but if a trade is not going to be faster, then Jupiter will just let you trade or let your trade go through Jupe, or what do you think about how's that?
Yeah, so like them as a DEX aggregator, I think they primarily went through Jupe just because, what they were putting in place seemed to just be if a direct swap on a radium pool didn't beat Jupe, then they just used Jupe in the end. So it wasn't, a more unique type of algorithm
Okay.
on that side. It was more of, just testing out. Now, I know they launched a V2 section on that side. Maybe it's
Uh-huh.
format now, but we'll just have to see like when we do the full aggregation to everybody and everybody could just
Yeah.
see like transparently who provides the best quotes, and then we'll just if they actually do provide the best quotes, we'll be running through them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I feel like competing against Jupiter at this time seems kind of tough because they have the mind share, right? They just released their new app and they kind of do have a lot going for them. But if you can beat them out um, on their core product, I mean, people that like to make money and don't like to pay more for their swaps are going to move over, right? Especially in Solana, I feel like people are very like price sensitive about that. That's like why a lot of us are on here. And so when you see, things go a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper, or you can't get a transaction to land sometimes, and you just go over to your platform and it lands, it's gonna grow, right?
No, exactly. And that's what we're really counting on. It's just like the price improvements that we can provide are not insignificant. They're not like 5 basis points. We're talking about like full 100, 200%, 200 bips price improvement over what you're currently getting.
Mhm.
And like I think with some recent developments that we made on our side, that won't be ready for private beta, but maybe for general launch, we'll be able to provide far more price improvements going forwards as well, and just trying to help optimize the on-chain liquidity that does exist on Solana.
Yeah. Yeah, with all of that, when you look at like the transactions that are going on for some of these new meme coins that come out, are you just like shaking your head at some of these transactions? Because in order to land them, you have to really like go for it. And a lot of people don't have MEV protection on. So people are kind of, losing out on a lot of these trades.
Yeah, I think it's what people want, right? So like it was
Yeah,
very, very surprising. Like these coins can come out of nowhere. Like Go, like Peanut. Peanut was actually, the second largest traded token. The Solana Peanut pair was the second largest pair being traded on Solana in November, the month to date right now. And it's
crazy.
come out of nowhere. And same thing with October. Goat was actually like the fifth largest traded token as well. So it's like people want to put their money in. Eventually, at a stage where it has enough liquidity, then proper routing can occur. But when it just has one pool at those initial early stages, then like I think users just have to expect like high slippage as more and more people go through until enough volume is put in so that you can distribute the liquidity properly.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun to watch, but I feel like it's crazy, right? There's so many coins started. What is it like the amount of tokens that actually get to like $1 million market cap off pumped out fund? It's like 0.1%, it's not good, right?
Yeah, I think it's people that are just trying to invest in like various narratives they like, and whichever one takes off, then people like rally behind it. And I guess people are trying to hope to find like the next whiff, the next plunk. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how is that going to work for you guys? Is that because a lot of those tokens, once they like graduate off pump fund, they go straight to Radium. Is that hard necessarily for you guys to just add a new pair, or is that almost something that you can just pull from there automatically? Like how does that look?
yeah, so it's done instantaneously because the second the pool is recorded, then that gets fed into our database systems, which we then record, and then we will be routing through it. Now, there's not a lot of price improvements that can be made if you're just going through one pool, right? One or two
Yeah,
pools. So
yeah,
like we will have the pool in place, but until more liquidity happens, then like liquidity will probably be the same as if you just transacted through anybody, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. Like it will make. it'll make sense after like a certain amount of liquidity is on the coin when it's there, and then you can actually really get see the benefits, right?
Exactly. So, some pools on Radium, some pools on Meteora, some pools on Orca, and then then the aggregation can happen on that side. I think what's most important for those type of users is just trying to get it filled as quickly as possible without switching on the user interface. And that's something that we're trying to optimize on more.
Yeah. Yes, okay. One thing that I've got to ask about is so AMMs you mentioned before, these like if you go back, like they were a pretty big innovation for DeFi, right? Like I imagine it started on ETH, but it's basically big pools of liquidity and you can match together two tokens, meaning that two parties that never met each other can swap a token and hopefully for the best price available, right? Is that or how would you, I guess, define that? Is that a pretty good way of saying that?
No, I think you got it exactly. And then, it's the underlying mechanisms of how it's actually traded on that side. And yeah, I think there's been lots of developments. Uniswap really led it with Uni V2 with the constant product ones and Uni V3 with the concentrated liquidity. But now I
Mhm.
think we're moving more towards these like order book type style dexes that do exist now. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that gives you the opportunity to participate yourself in the pool where you can provide liquidity to these pools, and then you get some of the fees back where sometimes they incentivize them and you can make a ton of money. And then like my question, so how do you explain DeFi? Like it's decentralized finance and anyone can use it, but like what's like the simple explanation of like when of DeFi in general?
yeah, I think for me, when I try to explain DeFi, it's basically like an unstoppable trading network that you can get on 24/7. The only risk is smart contract. You're not beholden to anybody's like opening hours trying to upgrade their servers on the back end side. It just works and it's been proven to like protect your funds because we've seen collapses of centralized exchanges, FTX being notable ones where your funds are just disappear for years, ends up in the legal system. I think just that like a decentralization and being able to really just own your own assets in the end, you're the only one that can control them is the most important aspect of DeFi. Because I think here in the West, we haven't seen a bank run in many, many decades.
Yeah.
But over in Asia, there are banks that have done this in the past like 20, 30 years. So people's memories are still pretty fresh from that period. And I think just being uh, able to like hold your own assets, not have anybody just take it because they went bankrupt or did some illegal stuff with it. That's very, very beneficial for DeFi. And I think that's why you see some of these custodians from in crypto that interact with like hedge funds. They're trying to offer these products where your assets are held on chain, but then those like if you're interacting with Deribit, then you could just trade off these assets that are held on chain instead of taking the exchange risk because everybody's scared of that in crypto.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I feel like the amount of lending companies and FTX blow up, it's hard to keep money on any exchange, at least for me. And I like that there's a better option than that.
Yep. No, 100%. Yeah, my previous job there had to work a lot with custodians and just designing the proper security measures because there was just too many blowups. I remember like BlockFi, like we interacted with them very closely in the
Mhm.
beginning, and you can immediately tell they were commingling funds pretty quickly, just given
Oh, really?
how much time it would take to withdraw. They kept asking questions like, "When do you deposit it?" And we're like, "Wait, you don't know?" So that's when you just exit. There's no point of risking your funds.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like but back in college, I played a lot of internet poker, and the same type of thing happened with internet poker sites like Full Tilt Poker and PokerStars. Both were commingling funds, and there was kind of like a run on the bank situation where everybody tried to withdraw and they just didn't have any money, right? So I feel like ever since that, I've always been kind of skeptical of a lot of the exchanges, and I mean, rightfully so. A lot of like the early exchanges were like not that good, right? Like they were always kind of sketchy, and especially if you wanted to trade like some unique altcoin, like there weren't really dexes to start, and a lot of them couldn't really be because a lot of coins had their own tokens or their own chains behind them to start, so you couldn't, right? Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. Sounds good. So, coming out early next year, and what are you guys kind of focused on for now leading up to that? Is this like delivering experience, getting people introduced to the platform, or what are you guys kind of focusing on right now?
Yeah, I think our main focus is just scaling up the product and taking any user feedback to improve the product as much as necessary at this stage.
Yeah.
So in terms of scaling, that's why we're going with the private beta launch. We want to add on users progressively to make sure our infrastructure can actually handle, I guess, all the users that want to be trading. We want to make sure we have the best experience for everybody on the platform. Going
Mhm.
forward, we will be launching, our API as well, be more of an enterprise type of API for users to use if they're systematically trading. That's the
Mhm.
next one up on a roadmap. And then afterwards, we'll be putting out features, like DCA, limit orders, and even portfolio swaps where you could trade like X number of tokens for Y number of tokens on that side. And I think that opens up a lot of new interesting avenues, but really just looking directly at the spot market in order to leverage what we have built out in order to expand and just provide the best possible swap products available to add on more order types.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, where do you, that's tough. It's like, where do you think the market's going as far as that goes? Like, do you just see these meme coins keep going? Like, we're seeing these tokens like Peanut, the largest trade token on Solana ever, and it's the 6th of November. So, so I mean, do you think we're gonna end up seeing more of that, or I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. Like, I do think we are going to see more of these more tail edge assets grow, just because, like, from September to October, we've seen the amount of volume going through like Sol USDC drop by like half on
Oh,
that side.
really?
In terms of percentage of transactions. So people are moving more over to like these tail edge assets. But the nice thing is that the amount of volume going through DEX aggregators have increased dramatically. Like we're at around $40 billion mark on a monthly basis. Usually it's around, this 25 to 30 billion. So I think Solana is attracting a lot of new users that got interested over September, over October, and we're convincing them to stay while all the other guys that were already training an ecosystem are just doubling up on the bets because they're liking what they're seeing, they like the ecosystem, and it trades just makes sense given like, I think we're still early on Solana DeFi. There's a lot of room to grow here.
Yeah, I think so too. And I guess we'll see ultimately how things go, but it seems like we just got a new president and will likely be a lot more like crypto friendly. So I think that, as those regulations like ease in or lighten up, I mean, I kind of think the floodgates might just open, and I feel like Solana is like the go-to retail chain, right? I mean, if you're trading any meme coins, it's really not that much going on, like comparatively to what's been going on in Solana, right? So I feel like you guys are set up pretty well for a for a fun 2025.
No, I definitely agree on that side. Like, I think everybody was really waiting to see the election results before making decisions on how to deploy capital, where they should scale up. And I think it's just going to be a floodgate of, I guess, trades, as you were saying there.
Yeah, I think it is, and I'm hoping that the regulations lighten up for us on our side. But do you think that that's going to kind of flow across like everywhere pretty much? I know that I think very like US centric, right? Because that's where I'm based. So it's like I'm thinking, all right, they aren't going to be attacking banks as much for interacting with exchanges, or they will allow businesses to thrive more and not attack them as much. So I'm thinking like that, but do you think that that kind of carries over to Canada and rest of the world?
No, I think it definitely carries over. The US plays a very, very important portion. I mean, the run up for Bitcoin was really driven by the ETFs being launched. If we, let's say Solana ETF launches, then like just take my money. Just
Oh,
let it
I
run.
know.
US has the biggest capital markets in the world. So you can actually get people deployed. Also has probably to me has the best software talent as well. You get more people building in crypto, you get more capital formation. It's gonna bump up this ecosystem for everybody involved. And we get more good press. That just means more people trying it out and hopefully liking it, staying, and just helping the ecosystem grow in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that sounds great. I'm getting all excited just hearing that. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I feel like Canada do they already have a Solana ETF in it's
No,
live?
no. So
No.
I think it's
Okay.
just Europe with some ETPs that
You're
are
okay.
available. I think
Okay.
Canada, the Canadian ones are still in application stage, but like usually I think Canada gets it first by a couple months and then the US gets something. So
They do. Yeah. Yeah, and how are like the regulations with everything with you guys building everything up there? Is it kind of tight or how's that been?
Yeah, so I think no, it's been fairly well because we don't take any custody. I think like with custodial solutions, then the regulations get a lot harder,
Yeah.
regardless of where you go in the world. But as a
Mhm.
non-custodial solution, just for finding the best postal routes for end users, then usually there are no issues. You just have to, be careful with sanctioned countries, just try and like remove any users from those parts of the world. And then usually, what our lawyers say is that we're all good to go from that point.
Nice, nice. Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, one thing that you said before that I wanted to follow up was on you said that you've been with the same team for about 10 years now.
Yeah, so like a couple of the guys on the team, we worked previously at a U.S. equity hedge fund, so there we were really focused on like low latency analytics. So you could think,
Okay.
bringing in all this data from Bloomberg, S&P, like 40, 50 years worth of data, and then computing daily valuations, like doing like hundreds of valuation models through like 50 years of data and try and compute all that in under a second so you could actually process the entire market in time before market open. So that was, our bread and butter back in the day, and then moved
Yeah.
into crypto into 2018, where we were just building out, back then no fund infrastructure really existed. So we were building out everything from scratch, back office systems, custodial management systems, trading systems. And then I guess we just kept on working on it until we saw an opportunity with Titan. And I guess me and some of the guys decided to just try and build what we thought would be most beneficial for the Solana ecosystem. Because when we got introduced, we just loved it. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. How has it been building on Solana versus other ecosystems? Have you found it like a pretty easy to build, helpful, or if you guys had some growing pains there? How's it been?
Yeah, I think everybody building on Solana has been very, very nice because everybody is extremely helpful in the ecosystem. The only thing I
Mhm.
wish that could happen more would be more open sourcing, especially of the DEXs. Sometimes if you're not open source, then like literally we had to go and beg for some instructions on that side on how do we interact. But some guys have been very, very good. Like I love Orca, I love what Phoenix has built on their SDK. Very easy
Mhm.
to interact with, to integrate with. But yeah, that's our experience building on Solana has been very good, especially since like most of our devs have experience in C++ as well as Rust. So it was a nice natural transition. I don't think they liked working on Java-based projects
Oh, really?
previously. So
Sounds good. How is it building in crypto? I guess you guys have been doing it for a while, but like, when the market's going like crazy today, is it hard to focus? Are you guys talking about like the latest meme coin drops or like is it just it's kind of the same where you can focus on work and then there's some fun stuff going on the side kind of thing?
yeah, I think like when like today, like when the election just happened the previous night, then we just all talk about it. But
Yeah.
I think we're all used to these big fluctuation swings right now. Like, when my friends in TradFi talk about 2% move, it just doesn't phase me anymore, right? It's like unless you
Yeah.
get to like 8 to 10%, then like let's start talking. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of people over time you get normalized to it. So we talk and then like we go back to do the work that needs to be done, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's always crazy the volatility that we experience in crypto. It's people go crazy when the stock market drops by a couple percent, but Solana went from $260 to $8, try building through that, right?
yeah, exactly. It's like you just gotta keep your heads down sometimes and just keep building. You just have to believe in the product and the ecosystem and the people that you work with. And I think that's the most important part of just building a startup.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I felt like when the price went down, it was like the sentiment was kind of the same. There was like still tons of people doing it. Like it was still kind of like an NFT bull market, and I was super into NFTs. I was like, this is still a lot of fun. Like I'm just gonna stick around and keep going, and paid off. So I'm glad it did.
Yeah, I think the most important part, really, I think, is just going out to meet people, right? Because if you see people continue to build, continue to have belief in the ecosystem, then you know you have something special there. And like
Yeah,
if you vibe with them, then it's even better. So
yeah, yeah. It's something that I've been thinking a lot of personally. Is like, everyone thinks that they're like a trader in crypto and they're always gonna like, long the bottom and sell the top and, gonna use leverage where it's like, actually, like you don't really need to do a lot of that. Maybe like sell some when it gets really high and buy a little bit more when it gets low, but you don't necessarily need to be like a professional trader to do that. And you'll probably out trade everyone by not trading.
Yeah, it's whatever strategy works for you, right? I know some people that take leverage hard, I know
Yeah.
others that just, just distribute, and some people that just hold, just hold, just buy it and just forget about it for years, but they believe in the ecosystem. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of the fun and the the good and the bad. You see it all in crypto Twitter, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think crypto Twitter is the other like purely unique thing where everybody gets their news from Twitter. So
Yeah.
you get some personalities there, and it's just fun following along.
Yeah. I feel like especially on a day like today, it's like the Super Bowl of crypto Twitter where everybody's got some wild opinion and everything's going crazy. But you know what? It's kind of like the beautiful mess we're in, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's like why we're all here. It's fun, it's interesting projects, stuff changes fast, and it's just a great time to be building.
Yeah, yeah, it sure is. Speaking of leverage, are you guys going to end up building any leverage on the platform, or is you going to kind of focus on not dealing with that right away?
Not dealing with that right away. I think just building a full risk engine is very, very complex.
Yeah,
So, there's other players in the marketplace that do already have very good products. We do recommend that you guys go with those guys,
yeah,
just because we want to focus on the base swap product just to make sure that that is perfect. Because we do a comparison with normal markets, swap products still make up a significant amount of volume on that side, and that's where we really want to concentrate on before we start talking about building out REST engines, building out like other types of products that are on top of swaps.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. I like that. I like that. You focus on what you're good at, build out from there. That's a good plan.
Yeah.
Um,
We do really believe that like, the user community is here for swaps first, and then we can leverage user demand to build out other products afterwards. So we just want to make sure that we provide the best possible experience, best possible prices, best UX experience, and then we move forward.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good plan. Now, when you think of like the your users, you want to be able to appeal like in my mind, I feel like what Jupiter got is like the early user can go to jup.ag and they can make a swap, right? Like it's clean, it's good for the early users, but maybe some of the advanced users want more features and then they kind of have those that you can kind of select as well. Like what's your what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think in terms of getting the power traders on board, so guys that process significant volume through that, I think our goal is just to really provide you the best execution possible at this stage.
Yeah,
I think in the future we may be able to provide additional tools for them, like research graphs. But I think that right now their methodology does work, and you have to provide like substantial infrastructure to set up something like Dex Screener or
yeah,
trading, right? So it's just
yeah,
like we'll provide your best execution, and then we can slowly take a look at what additional features we can help to aid you in your trading profiles, right? Because if you're already using something and we build an inferior version of that, I prefer you just to use the stuff that you're like already familiar with while we focus on adding extra utility onto your trading experience.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. That sounds good. Now, you guys seem pretty Solana focused. Are you guys going to do anything multi-chain at all, or going to be sticking with just Solana?
Yeah, so the nice thing about, a DEX aggregator's algorithm is that it could be applied to any other chain. It just has to make a couple tweaks. We just have to get into infrastructure. Now,
Hmm.
for now, I think we're going to be focusing on Solana L1, but natural extension of this, would be all those SVM L2s that do exist. So like Eclipse soon, I think it just makes sense to integrate with, especially, for Eclipse, they have a couple projects that are launching that were already built on Solana L1. So it's just a natural extension to just push it up to the L2 stage. So it
Yeah.
is open for discussion whether we want to. It's just right now we just want
Mhm.
base product launch on L1, and then we can see, what kicks off from there if Eclipse or soon gets enough volume onto their liquidity, because we need distributed liquidity across a couple of dexes on those platforms before we can actually come in and help.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. So one thing that I've been struggling with is when you look at Solana on like a weekly basis, like what metrics do I want to like really talk about? Like where do I want to focus on? It's like it's not really, I don't want to focus on TPS, don't want to just focus on price. I feel like there's a lot more that I want to talk about. So I usually bring in a lot of like what's going on with the news or this or that. But when you think of, like a weekly basis or what you guys focus on the most, like what are kind of like the metrics that you're focusing on? Like, is there something that you're watching? I think you mentioned spot markets is something that you really going to be watching, but like what's something that you guys are focused on, maybe pre-launch, and then maybe something that you'll be looking for post-launch as well?
Yeah, I think for pre-launch, our focus is just going to be on swaps and just get that like really down solid. Post-launch, I think it'll just be features that we'll be building on top. So I know limit orders right now on Jupiter is kind of busted. I think limit orders are absolutely critical to get launched
Yeah,
out of the ecosystem. Because like let's say I'm a plane. I just want my trade executed if like a rapid price movement happens. I think GCA is very important. I think the portfolio swap feature we were talking about was before was very important as well. But also I think launching vaults to be able to combine portfolio swaps as well as DCA to provide your own custom indexes, that would be very beneficial for the user. Let's say you want 60% Solana, 40% Bitcoin on an allocation that automatically rebalances. You just made your own custom ETF on that side. So I think those
yeah,
features are going to be rolled out. And like I said, it's in the short term. The long term vision is that we really, really want to become the home of Solana DeFi. So everything, not just execution. So, it's where you can take a look at your trading charts, get all your research done, bring on your on ramps, do your bridges. So anything that you want to think of, any type of information that was related to trading, we just want to associate with the Titan platform.
yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. One thing that I always think of is like what is the best like onboarding way to recommend? Like I was talking to somebody yesterday, they're like, I really want to buy this coin. I was like, all right, just buy, some coins on Coinbase and send them over. They're like, all right, well, I got to set up on Coinbase, I got to set up on that. Like what do you think is the best onboarding flow right now? And like what are you guys building out to kind of help that process?
Yeah, I think right now the best onboarding process is that PayPal
Yeah.
I used before. I think, but that's only relevant for US residents right now because I think that's the one that gets you the lowest fees. Other than that, I'm afraid like probably just have to onboard through a centralized exchange because the credit card company onboarding they take too much of a fee, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So you might just have to just go through a centralized exchange, do the KYC, set it up one time and send it over, send assets to your own personal wallet. In terms of building something out, I think we do want to partner with platforms that can get these on-ramps especially effective, but we just want to make sure that, that they provide the actual best possible solution for users in that region. Like, I don't want everyone to recommend somebody paying like 10% fees just because
Oh yeah.
easier. I'd rather tell you to spend some time to spend 30 minutes trying to do something and then trying to reduce your fees by like 80% on that side.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's Sphere that has a pretty good on-ramp, off-ramp tool that I think they made free, but I think there's some limitations on it. But I used that not too long ago and it was pretty good experience. So
Yeah.
worth checking out.
Yeah, I think it's a critical experience. I think especially off-ramping, I think is the very, very difficult portion. Way more difficult than the on-ramp. But most people I met have not even thought about off-ramping yet. We just want to be in the ecosystem and just keep building
Yeah,
and keep trading.
yeah, yeah. Normally it's like people get so excited to on-ramp that like they'll see that 10% fee and just pay it, right? But getting off is definitely something a little bit harder.
And I'm definitely interested in following what happens, I guess, in emerging markets because I think the first best examples of on and off ramps that are like global distributed will probably come from there. Just because people are saying remittance back and forth and they don't want to pay, those Western Union fees that are involved. So if
Yeah.
if a company does find a solution for that, I think they'll probably be worth at least a couple of billion because they'll be able to offset the monopoly that really takes place there.
Yeah, yeah, that it just seems like there's massive waste going on there. If we can send something for 0.005 cents, like why are they charging this much to transmit that? Yeah, I always wonder like in emerging markets how the off-ramping and on-ramping is going to work, right? Like is it an OTC dealer? Is it a local exchange? Is it a bank? Is it it's tough, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure what it'll look like, but like in my mind, it's like, let's just replace these guys that are operating with high fees and maybe, he get a single distributor. Maybe he takes a small fee, but not like anywhere close to what like currently like these mega corporations are doing on that side. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, that sounds good. Well, let's see. What else do the listeners need to know about Titan here?
Yeah, so I guess if we are still accepting signups for our private beta, so if you guys go to titandex.io, you can sign up there and then we'll send you the information once you guys have been let in. But we just do want the best user feedback, be as brutally honest as you can so we can build the best product for everybody. And we do think that we can provide you very significant price improvements when you do your trades there. So yeah.
Awesome. That sounds good. Definitely worth checking out. I'm on the waiting list, so maybe you could bump me up a little bit, but I'm looking forward to checking out and looking forward to see what you guys build out.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Well, hey, really appreciate your time, Chris, and look forward to seeing you guys launching your full platform. And if anything else comes up or you want to come back on when you guys launch, let me know. Happy to have you back.
Definitely. Great being here.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Solana Weekly. Once again, this is Thomas Bahamas, and I have one final ask for you guys. If you could, please subscribe on whatever player you're listening to. You could leave a review. That would be amazing. If you want to shield me your bags, work for them. But yeah, really appreciate it. And as always, this is not financial advice, but I want you guys to accelerate, move forward, and let's get this bag. I'll catch you guys next week.